They are called communists.
Tell me, do you approve of women who smoke?
Sneaking out, are ya? I want me money.
That son of a bitch. She was his maid and all the time violating it.
Henry, that's unspeakable.
So don't speak then. Prepare to die at the hands of Serbia.
If only the past could be changed.
Me whenever I look at my resume.
Schnell!
Titanic Adventure Out of Time is a point-and-click adventure game slash simping simulator developed by Cyberflix and published by GTE Entertainment for the PC and Mac in 1996. It's a game about international conspiracies, petty nationalism, and what might have happened had certain people not been around at crucial points of history. Titanic is like the video game version of the Clue movie. It's not particularly great, but it's not bad either, and its memories kept alive by millennials who played it with their moms when they were in elementary school. And yes, you likely played this game with your mom, because if you were born in the 80s and grew up in the 90s, it's all but certain that your mom, like everyone else, was a Titanic fanatic. I don't think younger people can really appreciate just how obsessed Americans were with the Titanic back then, even before that immensely overrated James Cameron movie came out. There were tons of new Titanic books. There were tons of documentaries, one filmed for IMAX. There was not one, but two really awful direct-to-video animated movies. You could buy replicas of the necklace Kate Winslet wore. High schoolers even had Titanic-themed proms. You couldn't escape it. Why was everyone so crazy about the Titanic? Granted, there's a certain tragic romance to the story. The largest ship ever made, feated as unsinkable by its creators, sinking and killing 1,500 people, including some of the best-known, wealthiest people of the era. Imagine if Katy Perry, Gayle King, Jeff Bezos' fiancé, and a bunch of other women got in a space rocket that didn't come home. Oh, wait, that nearly happened. But you get the point. If it did happen, you bet people would still be talking about it decades from now. While I was researching this video, I came across a decade-old blog post on the 90s Titanic craze that pointed out how it overlapped almost perfectly with the Monica Lewinsky scandal. Maybe that's an explanation. In an era of increasing crassness and stultifying political correctness, Americans yearned for a simpler time. A time when men were men, and women had to know an artist or photographer in order to show whole.
Jack, I want you to draw me like one of your French girls.
Or, if you want to get into the weeds of history, and I'll be doing that a lot in this video, maybe it's because the sinking of the Titanic was like the end of an era. As the prophet Ayn Rand, peace be upon her, pointed out in a 1960 lecture at Yale University, the 19th century was the greatest leap forward in terms of scientific progress that humanity had ever experienced. From 1800 to 1900, we went from the horse-drawn buggy to the automobile, from carrier pigeons to telephones. America, Britain, Germany were experiencing prosperity of a kind that had been unthinkable to the kings of antiquity. The Titanic symbolized all of this. The opulent wealth of Europeans and Americans, their desire to conquer nature and prove man's supremacy over the material world. And it ended in total disaster. 2 years after the Titanic sank, World War I began, putting humanity on a downward spiral it has yet to escape from. Fuck you, Gabriel Princip. I hope you're happy. In hell. When I was a kid, I got sick of Titanic mania very, very quickly. Aside from this game, which I've probably played and beat well over a dozen times, Cyberflix's take on the Titanic tragedy is rough sledding, with questionable game design, puzzles that are way too easy, and characters so deep in the uncanny valley they're halfway to the Earth's core. But Titanic Adventure Out of Time is extraordinarily well written, with an intricate story that scratches the itch of autistic millennials who spent too much time reading about history when they should have been trying to get laid. Let's dive in. Too soon? Setting up the game is easy enough. Grab it from Steam or GOG, download, and play. Well, not quite. You'll want to install the unofficial patch, because it fixes bugs that were introduced in the digital re-release, such as doors not leading to the right locations. You'll also want to set your processor affinity to 1 by adding these commands to the game's shortcut. Otherwise, all the dialogue will be cut off like...
Alright, zip it. You can't even...
Zip it. Zip.
Even then, the game is still pretty janky. There's no support for widescreen, windowed mode, or borderless full screen, and like every other Boomer game, Titanic doesn't play nice with multi-monitor setups. The fact that there's enough interest in this game for an unofficial patch, yet no way to increase the resolution high enough so that my eyes don't bleed, suggests that nobody's been able to figure out how the game's Edsel of an engine works. Titanic also has an annoying tendency to crash the desktop, including whenever you Alt-Tab out, so if you were hoping to play it while catching up on your favorite podcasts, well, you're just out of luck. For added stability, you can run the game in DXWND. That's how I recorded the footage for this video, because the vanilla version just flat out won't work with OBS. Even with DXWND, there's no way to force the game to run in windowed mode. My attempt to do so just resulted in a weird bug where mouse clicks wouldn't register unless I clicked a bajillion times. And trust me, you are gonna be sick of clicking by the time you see the end credits. What do I mean by that? Oh, you'll see. Ah, the bad old days, before video game UIs were standardized. When you boot up Titanic, you get an option to play the game proper, or tour mode, where you can wander around the Titanic freely as characters from the game give you historical factoids about its construction, journey, and sinking. Titanic's recreation of the ship is so historically accurate that several documentaries used footage from the game, so the tour mode was a big selling point back in the day. The original game came with 3 tour guides. You had to download the rest from Cyberflix's website. All the tour guides are included with the Steam and GOG releases, so you don't have to go hunting for the original files on abandonware sites or the Wayback Machine.
I am most certain you will find the internet to be the very latest in modern technology, just like the Titanic.
Unfortunately, you can't switch between modes. You have to quit the game and restart it. You also can't load a saved game without starting a new game. If you don't have the time or attention span to beat Titanic in one sitting, get used to seeing this an awful lot.
Once again, today's top stories. London has endured another night of German bombing.
The year is 1942. I am playing Frank Carlson, a disgraced former British Secret Service agent who flubbed a crucial mission on board the Titanic and got scapegoated for basically every bad historical event of the last 30 years. Now I'm old, living in London during the Blitz, and my landlady is barricading the door.
About time you're awake. You're 2 weeks late with the rent.
Please don't tell anyone how I live. Carlson surrounded himself with mementos of the Titanic sinking, like some inverted version of a middle-aged dad who won't shut up about his high school football career. You have to examine several of the items to advance the story, specifically the scrapbook, the Titanic model on your wall, and the watch on your desk, though it's worth looking at everything you can because some of the items give you vital clues for later.
No, your dismissal stems from the Titanic mission. That failure can no longer be ignored. Especially now.
Jesus Christ. Carlson's so depressed he's rereading Futility, an IRL novel published in 1898 about the Titan, a massive, unsinkable ship that ends up sinking in the North Atlantic. Wait, the elites were doing predictive programming in the 1800s? Have tinfoil hats been invented yet, or am I gonna have to put a bucket over my head?
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay!
After I'm done having Carlson cry in his cups, the air raid siren goes off, and I get vaporized by German bombs. Nah, just kidding. I get blown back 30 years in time to April 14th, 1912, the night the Titanic sank. Personally, my headcanon is that Carlson is having a Jacob's Ladder-style hallucination while he bleeds to death. Also, I just realized I may be the only person on the planet who has a headcanon for Titanic Adventure Out of Time. Day of the Pillar for my boomer ass. Welcome to Cabin C-73. You've got a dinner menu, a trunk you can't open, and oh, hey, I wonder who's knocking. Whoa,
Good evening.
Who are you?
I am Smethels, your steward.
Smethels. You feeling okay? You look like you're having a stroke. Titanic uses Cyberflix's proprietary Dream Factory engine. It's not an FMV game. To create the characters, they took multiple headshots of real-life actors and then composited them to create animated talking heads. This purportedly allowed for FMV-like realism without the expense and hassle of actually recording FMVs. The results are questionable. Beyond every character having a permanently arched eyebrow, it's clear the developers only took the bare minimum of photos necessary, because every character has some annoying quirk they're shoving in your face constantly. Penny Pringle is always pointing at you, Daisy Cashmore is always wagging her finger, and the Reverend here is always making the stop motion with his hand. It's rough, I won't lie to you, it's rough to look at. Anyway, Smevels tells us a young woman wants to meet us at the Electric Camel, in the gym.
The Electric Camel? An exercise device. They say it is good for the liver. I wouldn't know.
Yeah, buddy, I can tell you don't lift. Just look at those arms. Titanic is a first-person game with pretty straightforward controls. You use the arrow keys to move around and the mouse to interact with the environment. While you can look in any direction, the game is 3D in the same way that Resident Evil was. The environments are pre-rendered backdrops. You don't have true freedom of movement. You can only move between predetermined points. Like with the game's incredibly creepy, sub-Fallout tier character animations, this was likely a concession to technological limitations. 3D graphics were in their infancy in the mid-90s, and many PC users didn't even have dedicated GPUs, or 3D accelerators as they were called back then. Blade Runner, which came out the year after Titanic, had a similar problem. Had the game been made using true 3D, almost none of its target audience would have been able to run it. Smevels gives you a map of the ship that doubles as a fast travel method, though it's disabled during certain parts of the game. You also get a watch, which tells you the time, more on that in a bit, and a satchel that functions as your inventory. In fact, Smevels won't even let you leave your room until you've picked up the latter two items.
Have you checked your dresser? Or the bed for your personal belongings?
How do you know that? Inside your satchel, you'll find the key to your trunk. It has a phonograph giving you your mission briefing, a cryptograph for decoding enemy codes, and a briefing file that fills you in on the state of international politics. In short, we're headed for World War. But you knew that already. Anyway, I leave my cabin and head to the grand staircase to meet with the most insistent young lady. On the way, I run into the game's two-legged hint machine, Lalem Sachem Trask. If you're stuck at any point, you can give Trask your inventory items and he'll suggest what to do next. Also, because he's a psychic, the developers can use him to break the fourth wall.
This is a ship of destiny, which I think you know.
Thanks, Trask. You wouldn't happen to have the Powerball numbers, would you? In the gym, I'm finally introduced to my contact, a Renfair reject and proto-Karen named Penny Pringle.
Glory be. It's about time. You're late. Another 5 minutes and I'd have cancelled your mission.
Funny detail about the game's plot. Carlson didn't screw up the mission originally. He blew it off to go hang out with a girl. This is why simping never pays. Penny gives us our mission. Investigate Zeitel, a German colonel traveling on the Titanic, and recover a stolen copy of the Rubaiyat that he smuggled on board. The Rubaiyat is another IRL book, those things you're too busy watching TikTok to read, a collection of poems by medieval Persian writer Omar Khayyam. In the real world, the first English-language translation of the Rubaiyat was published in 1859 by British writer Edward Fitzgerald and was immensely popular during the Victorian era.
Have you seen the report? In your trunk? On the international situation? I'd jolly well read it if I were you.
Right, kick ass. Well, don't want to sound like a dick or nothing, but says in the report that we're fucked up. We talk like fags, and our shit's all retarded. Penny suggests that we can find more information about the Rubaiyat by getting into the wireless room and looking for coded German telegrams we can decode using the cryptograph. But there's actually two ways you can complete your mission here, and it's in design decisions like this that Titanic really shines. Reactivity and player choice were relatively new concepts in 1996, but Titanic's approach to both is surprisingly modern. It's no Last Express, but I think it does a better job than, say, Ripper or Blade Runner. There's no random generation of endings. Every outcome in Titanic is entirely under the player's control. Your actions, or lack thereof, determine how characters react to you and ultimately which ending you get. If you opt to obey Penny's commands like a good little simp, you'll want to head out onto the boat deck to the officer's promenade. Try and enter the wireless room and the officer on patrol will slap your hands like a kid trying to get into the cookie jar. I diffuse his suspicions with my limitless charm and ability to manipulate the weak-minded. Turns out that Officer Morrow here is a veteran of the Boer War, or the Second Boer War as it's now called.
The Boer War was fought from 1899 to 1902 between the British and the Dutch-speaking white republics of what is now South Africa. The Boers actually performed well initially, winning battle after battle against the Brits' superior numbers and pioneering guerrilla warfare, but the British pioneered something of their own: concentration camps. The war ended after the British rounded up the Boers' wives and children into said camps, where tens of thousands died from disease and starvation. Another glorious moment in the history of the empire on which the sun never set. But Officer Morrow isn't really interested in thorny topics like genocide or imperialism. Nah, he wants to stop diving to the ground looking for Charlie every time he hears a balloon pop. I apply kindergarten-level psychoanalysis to his PTSD, and he's so grateful he lets me into the wireless room. Morrow's so dim that he even lets me visit the bridge after I find his missing binoculars. Having found myself in the same scenario that millions of lonely teenage girls fantasized about in the 90s, I immediately do what any time-traveling schizo would do. I'm gonna be a hero!
I think you've seen enough. Seaman, check course.
You created a time paradox. Carlson, you can't go changing the future like that. Anyway, head into the wireless room and look for the telegram that's written in Pig Latin. Then take it back to the cryptograph in your cabin. This is what passes for a puzzle in Titanic. Hook up the car battery, turn the ignition, change the numbers on the odometer to match the ones on the telegram, and type in the message. That was easy. But if typing on a keyboard is too much effort, here's the other way you can find out where the Rubaiyat is. While walking to the officer's promenade, I hear a tiny raped voice crying out in a cruel, unfeeling wilderness of sexual agony.
Come here.
This is Max Seidelman, the self-described Sharpie of Spruce Street. He invites me down to the smoking room to play cards. I accept, and he'll tell me we're popping by the Parisian Cafe first to meet his buddy, Colonel Zeidel. Uh-oh. Physiognomy check. This dude will likely kill someone before the game is over. The entire conversation is Zeidel making passive-aggressive jabs at the British.
Business. How interesting, considering the British are not so good at it.
While his boys from Brazil-looking butt buddy, Willy von Haderlitz, makes irrelevant interjections. After they leave, check the table where they were sitting to find that Zeidel left his pipe behind him. Oh man, he's gonna be fiending by tomorrow morning. Take the pipe to Trask, and his insightful psychic reading consists of telling you to check the Turkish bath because the pipe has been somewhere humid recently. Go to the bath, turn on the hot water, and the steam will reveal a secret message written on the mirror. Also, the game glitched out here. You're supposed to see the steam filling up the room. While we're down here, it's worth talking about Titanic's approach to time. For most of the game, time works like in Disco Elysium. It only advances during conversations. Whenever time advances, you'll get a short cutscene of the Titanic merrily sailing towards its doom. That said, all this really seems to affect is where certain characters are on the ship. There is one major exception to how time progression works, but I'll get to that later. And since we have time, let's go do what passes for side quests in this game. If you actually go up to the smoking room, you can take Max up on that game of cards. Meet Buick Riviera, who is actually a character from the developer's previous game, Dust, A Tale of the Wired West. I'm sure all three of you who actually played it will appreciate this glimpse at the Cyberflix cinematic universe. Riviera actually becomes somewhat important in the endgame, but for now, you can amuse yourself by playing Pazak with him. I mean blackjack.
Oh, I would never play games with the French. They cheat.
In your cabin, you might have read a note from a woman named Georgia asking you to meet her on the boat deck. This is the woman Carlson originally threw his career in the trash to simp for. Georgia and Carlson were lovers years ago, but she went and married some minor British lord, cheated on him, and then watched him spend the family fortune down to nothing while drinking himself stupid. That's all very sad and tragic, Georgia, but what does this have to do with me? Oh, she's got a diamond necklace. It's the only thing of worth they own, and she's giving it to me for safekeeping. Thanks, I'm gonna go pawn this for meth. That said, this side mission is actually worth doing because it ties into the main plot, and if you finish it, you'll save yourself a lot of headaches during the endgame. Anyway, after another session of glorified phone tag, Georgia invites me to meet her in her cabin. Blah blah blah, she had an affair, the house is being sold off, I'm the only emotional tampon she has left, blah blah blah. Then her husband walks in. After another meeting on the poop deck, that doesn't end with me getting to tap that poop deck, I have the opportunity to get sloshed with Charles in the smoking room. He lets slip that George's necklace, the one she gave me, is a fake. He's given the real necklace to his buddy Sasha Barbican, remember that name, to sell, at which point he'll have Georgia thrown in the nut house and head back to Britain having paid off all his debts. Amazing plan, Charles, but you didn't count on the power of simping. The other side quest in Titanic also ties into the main plot, albeit less strongly. Outside the smoking room, you'll run into the most annoying female game character since whatever this is, Daisy Cashmore. After burning your ears off with yet more gossip, Jesus, don't you broads have anything better to do? She'll ask you to find the name of some risless chud who was making eyes at her during dinner. I find it difficult to believe a man would cross the street to hit this, but fine. I go to the purser's office, ID the poor sap using his initials, and then Daisy tells me that steel magnate Andrew Conkling wants to hire me for something. I really hope it doesn't involve more simp shit.
A preposterous woman.
Conkling tells me that a maid named Shayla Hacker, not Sheila, Shayla, stole an important letter from his house and just so happens to be on the Titanic. He wants me to get it back. I go meet with her and her brother Jack on the poop deck, and they're demanding Conkling fork over $5,000 in exchange. The inflation calculator only goes back to 1913, but still, they're asking for about $160,000 in today's money. They might be able to buy a shed near Corning with that kind of cash. I go back to Conkling, meet his obnoxious wife who keeps blowing cigarette smoke in my face, and he tells me to meet with Shayla on her own. I go harass her in the steerage cabins, and she tells me a tale as old as Rome. Young maid falls in love with her boss, gets pregnant with his baby, and then discovers that he and his wife engineered the affair because she's infertile and wants to steal the baby. What? You've never heard this one before? Shayla also reveals that the letter she stole from Conkling says that the Titanic was constructed using poor-quality, high-sulfur steel. While all of the characters in Titanic are fictional, many of the plots are based on things that actually happened. The Titanic was in fact constructed with steel that contained large amounts of impurities, sulfur being one of them, and researchers later blamed these impurities in part for the ship sinking, because they made the steel brittle and more likely to fracture in low temperatures. And I just realized that for a guy who hated the Titanic craze growing up, I've had to become a Titanic expert just to intelligently analyze this game. God help me. Anyway, what were we doing? Oh right, trying to change the past. Regardless of how you proceed with the main quest, you'll find out that Zytel stashed the Rubaiyat in a coal chute in one of the boiler rooms. I head down there because nothing on this ship is locked or guarded, only for a seaman to tell me to get my sorry ass back above decks. I BS him by telling him I work for the company, and he's all like, yeah, the engine is making too much noise. Could you look at it? I don't know, man. Have you tried turning it off and turning it back on again? This is yet another puzzle where you're literally handed the solution in the form of an instruction manual. Not that you really need it. Just turn handles and pull levers until the engine stops sounding like a bag of popcorn exploding in the microwave. Afterwards, the seaman lets you go into the engine room. Let's see, boiler room 1, boiler room 2, boiler room... Wait, who the hell are you?
Forgive me, I am sorry to intrude on you, a person of such high station. I am Vlad.
Physiognomy check. This dude is definitely gonna stab a bitch. Vlad here is a Serbian stowaway who has a grudge against the Austrians for murdering his entire family. He wants you to go above decks and retrieve a package for him from Sasha Barbican. Hope you remembered that name. Look, buddy, I don't have time to get your Funko Pops. I'm on a mission from God. I find the Rubaiyat in the coal chute. Mission complete. Oh, hey, Vlad. I'm just about to get that package.
Flawless victory. Fatality.
Okay, we got a problem. I can't actually take the Rubaiyat because Vlad will shoot me in the face if he sees me leaving with it. But if I do what he wants and go get his care package, he'll have taken the Rubaiyat by the time I get back. What do? I take the Rubaiyat and put it in one of the other coal chutes. Like most Potato Zone natives, Vlad is a very stupid, very lazy man, and if he can't find the Rubaiyat where it's supposed to be, he won't even bother looking for it anywhere else. Genius! Oh yeah, while I'm down here I also get into an insult match with one of the shit shovelers. It has absolutely no bearing on the plot, but it's hilarious.
What? Nobody talks that way about me, Mum.
After stashing the Rubaiyat in another chute, it's time to meet this Sasha dude I've been hearing so much about. If you can be bothered to pay attention to Georgia's histrionic blathering, you'll know Sasha is the dude she cheated on her husband with. She also mentions that he's involved with some kind of Serbian terrorist cell. Sounds like a charming fella. Hey, Sasha. Whoa! Physiognomy check. This dude ain't allowed within 500 feet of a school. I get Vlad's Funko Pops and also some tea on Georgia, then head back to the boiler rooms. By the way, I didn't use fast travel at all in this playthrough, but even if you are using it, it's disabled whenever you're on the lowest deck. Enjoy your walking simulator! There's another side quest you can do while you're up here with the civilized folk. This side quest becomes mandatory if you fail to obtain the Rubaiyat. If you fast travel around the grand staircase or use the lift, you'll eventually run into a keeping up appearances style couple named the Gorse Joneses. In between arguing with each other, they'll drop a hint that you should visit Eric Burns, an American photographer staying on C deck. Talk to Burns and he'll tell you his wife is on the rag. Head back out to the grand staircase to find her, and then tell him to go apologize for having hobbies that don't revolve around her. You can then slip into his unlocked cabin and pilfer all the nudie loops he's been making. This is really the only puzzle that's easy to screw up, because the directions are vague. You're here to develop 3 photos, one of which shows Zyto and Sasha hanging out. You turn the lights off in the cabin, turn on the red light, then put the photos in the fluid to develop them. The catch is that if you leave them in the solution for too long, or not long enough, you'll screw them up and Penny will make fun of you for sucking at your job and possibly having a small penis. Here's what you do. Put the photo in the first tray, wait for it to change shades exactly 3 times, then put it in the second tray and wait for it to change shades twice before putting it on the clothesline. Hey, maybe I can go into photography if this whole secret agent thing doesn't work out. Once you have the Rubaiyat, go to Penny Pringle's cabin and she'll pat you on the head and tell you done good. Tell her about the messages you found and show her the pictures you developed, and she'll deduce that Zyto was trading the Rubaiyat to Sasha in exchange for a painting. That's your next objective. Also, remember when I mentioned there's a big exception to time progression in this game? Well, here it is. The game doesn't tell you this, but you have exactly 10 real-life minutes to get the painting, or it'll be gone by the time you find out where it is. Man, old games really love their secret time limits. Penny tells me to go to the purser to look at the ship's cargo manifest. When I get there, the purser refuses and tells me to fix my heart or die. One of the bigwigs on the ship, named Thayer, told the purser to send a telegram for him, but he can't leave his post. I volunteered to send a telegram for him, because this is a video game, and I'm sure this will get me what I want somehow. I really hope you cured Officer Morrow of his Proto-Nom flashbacks earlier so you could get into the wireless room, because you'll have to do it now otherwise, and you really don't have time to waste. Once again, Titanic presents us with a puzzle that consists of reading the owner's manual. Here's a hint for completing this quickly. You don't actually have to send the telegram. So long as you follow the instructions to turn the telegraph on, you can type literally anything and the game registers the task as complete. My attempt to type something based and red-pilled here to show you all was ruined by the game glitching out. Once you're done, head back to the purser and tell him you'll let Thayer know his message was sent.
And let them think the purser's not doing his job?
Wait, you can leave your post to take credit for what I did, but you couldn't leave it to actually send the telegram? Were you just trying to get out of your job, buddy? Either way, once he's gone, I thumb through his precious cargo manifest and find a painting on page 2 with Sasha's signature next to it. Bingo. Now that we know where the painting is, we need to get into the cargo hold. This is where paying attention to all the annoying gossip that NPCs in this game inflict on you actually comes in handy. Titanic came out in 1996. There's no quest log, no objective markers, no giant insulting arrow at the top of the screen telling you where you need to go next. If a character says something that sounds useful, you are expected to remember it or write it down, likely using the pad of sticky notes that everyone kept by their 30-inch CRT monitor in the 90s. If you were too inattentive to note down important quest information, it's off to Game FAQs for you, pleb! While you were listening to Daisy Cashmore prattle on about her rich and fulfilling social life, you may have heard her mention that the Carters have a car in the cargo hold, and one of them checks it daily using the car keys. Go back to the purser and ask him if he can let you into the cargo hold. He'll once again tell you to fix your heart or die before pawning more work off on you. Isidore Strauss lost a cufflink, and the purser wants you to find it. This is easy enough. Go to the reception room on D-Deck, exactly 1 deck below the purser's office, and you'll find Max Seidelman milling around, where he tells you he saw Strauss sitting at the foot of the stairs and got approach anxiety before he could say hi. Check the chairs, there's the cufflink. You'll also find Zyto hanging out here. I promise I won't get all political.
I had advised you against it. Young people, they listen to no one nowadays.
3 beers later.
Germany wants land, industries, and material, and we will fight to get it. Britain and America will try to stop this, but we will know your plans. And if there's war, Germany will win.
I give the cufflink to the purser. He once again congratulates me for doing his bitch work and then runs off to take credit for it like before. This time he's so excited about getting a tip that he forgets to close the window, enabling me to swipe the Carter's car keys from inside his booth. I head to the cargo hold on the forecastle deck, and the seaman lets me in while fanboying over me. I head inside, find the car, turn on the lights, and bam! The painting. Now I know some of you history dorks are looking at that painting and being all like, "Ooh, I know what that is!" Please withhold your applause until the end. While on my way back to Penny, I overhear Zeidel and Sasha having a chat on the boat deck. They've discovered my presence on the ship. Good thing I've been working out.
Sasha, I've discovered a traitor. Don't look so startled. It is not you.
Foreshadowing. I bring the painting back to Penny, only for her to tell me that Smethels is looking for me. Alright, fine.
Still wondering? This ship holds a strange fascination for you. Most peculiar.
Look, Smethels, I literally haven't left my room the entire trip. Of course I'm fascinated by this ship. Smethels tells me that a young German gentleman wants to meet me in the squash court. I head there and I'm confronted with Zeidel's catamite, Willy von Haderlitz. He challenges me to a fencing match. Welcome to the absolute worst minigame in Titanic. The game makes it seem like there's some strategy involved in using the mouse to parry Willy's thrusts, but take my advice and don't bother. You win this game by clicking. You click, click, click like a boomer on a Pornhub ad. You click until your finger gets a cramp. You click until your mouse breaks. Like with almost everything else in this game, you don't actually have to win to progress the story. But if you beat Willy twice, he'll give you a ring, saving you time getting it later.
But if anything should happen to me, I trust you will know what to do.
No, Willy, I actually don't know what to do. For all of the god-awful fencing, this is honestly the most interesting and important conversation in the game. It's framed around this cheeky, I know you're a spy and so am I stuff, where Willy makes very vague allusions to my real identity and hints that he's a double agent too without actually saying it. You have to read between the lines to deduce what's actually going on.
Remember, only one thing is certain, and the rest is lies. It is a quote from an old book I had the recent opportunity to read.
So, which book was it, Willy?
The ancient Aryans believed man would see 4 ages. According to them, this is now the Wolf Age, an age that ends with ice. After the Wolf Age ends, mankind shall experience a fire that will burn for 2 generations. Clearly a metaphor for a war we must all try to prevent. Yes?
Man, this dude would have had an incredible Substack. After getting the ring, I decide I'm not going to risk carpal tunnel with more fencing and wander off for a smoke. I go back to Penny, tell her that Willy gave me a ring and hinted he's in danger, and she tells me to go talk to Trask. Neat. The British Secret Service is now putting its operations in the hands of Troon Miss Cleo. To quote Michael Collins, how the hell did these people ever get an empire? I find out through the grapevine that Trask actually wants to meet me where honor and glory crown time. This super secret head scratcher of a location is the top of the grand staircase, literal feet from where Trask has been hanging out all night. I give him the ring and he tells me that Willy is in great danger as we watch a cutscene of him meeting a shocking end. Oh, come on, that was a layup. Trask says that the ring has Russian characters on the inside band and that Willy's been stooping some girl who knows more. Once again, you're expected to pay attention to all the NPC gossip to figure out where to go next. In this case, our old pal, the Sharpie of Spruce Street, is still hanging out in the reception room and tells us that Willy has been seeing a girl named Clarice Limehouse who is staying on the same deck. If you don't want to piss off everyone by knocking on random doors, go to the purser and ask him where Clarice's room is, D19. Clarice has a very annoying voice, but I'm just grateful to be talking to someone who isn't chewing my ear off with gossip and drama. I show her the ring and she tells me that Willy hid a notebook somewhere on board and I have to find it. I go back to Penny and she's like, yeah, you need to find the notebook. Turns out that Willy was a double agent for the Russian government and the notebook likely contains names of revolutionaries who want to overthrow the Tsar. She also finally reveals why the painting was so important. It's got British troop deployment plans on the back. Before you leave, Penny also gives you a weapon, a pen that dispenses knockout gas, because the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a single-use James Bond doohickey. Our obvious next destination is investigating Willy's corpse at the electric bath. Now that's what I call twink death. Next to his body, I find a torn-out book excerpt, and many knots unraveled by the road. Treasure hunts, my favorite activity in an adventure game. Take this to Trask and he'll tell you to look for a rope. There just so happens to be a rope in this game, conveniently in the part of the ship called Scotland Road. I look at it, find nothing, and whoa! Don't sneak up on me like that, buddy. Jack Hacker gives me a new hint. But still the vine her ancient ruby yields, and still a garden by the water blows. Again, if you take this to Trask, he'll suggest looking at a part of the ship that has a garden.
What's red and old?
My penis? Head to the Parisian Cafe. Go to the table where Zeidel and Willie were hanging out earlier, and you'll find a pack of old red cigarettes stashed in the wall. Take these to Trask, and he'll be like, yeah, that's Max Seidelman's brand. Yeah, thanks for the insight, buddy. Give the cigarettes to Max in the smoking room, and he'll tell you he saw Willie hiding something in one of the smokestacks a few days ago. Like with the Rubaiyat, there's actually another way to complete this mission, though it's easy to miss. Fast travel around the grand staircase or use the lift, and you'll once again run into the Gorse Joneses, who will tell you to pay Eric Burns another visit. He apparently holds no grudges about me breaking into his cabin earlier, and his wife is still PMSing. He wants to calm her down with a gift. Now, ages and ages ago, you likely ran into the Reverend Edgar Trout in the second-class stairs. Trout is basically every bad Reddit stereotype about Christians, right down to blaming every calamity on God's displeasure. If you mention to him that you think Trask is a pretty cool guy, he'll give you a prayer card to ward away the devil or something. Give this prayer card to Burns as a gift for his wife, and he'll exchange it for a photo of Willie on top of the smokestack. Actually, it's not an exchange. He doesn't even give you the photo, he just shows it to you. Well, I'm pretty sure your wife is not going to be happy with you re-gifting some pastor's business card, so screw you too. MGTOW! While I'm over here, I might as well wrap up the dangling plot thread of George's necklace. Head to Sasha's cabin after completing the Rubaiyat mission, and you'll find a seaman repairing the circuit breaker. After he leaves, kill the power to Sasha's cabin, which causes him to leave. Turn the power back on, go in, like everyone else, Sasha forgets to lock his doors, and check out the Matryoshka doll safe on his dresser. I imagine a lot of people who play this game skip this puzzle because it's optional and is the only one that doesn't give you explicit instructions, but like everything else in this game, it's very easy. The goal is to turn the rings until the numbers on each side add up to the number on the outermost ring, and you can literally do it in about 5 clicks. Open the safe, grab the diamonds, and make sure you put the fake diamonds in the safe, otherwise this happens.
You have stolen from me. Now I must take what is mine.
Flawless victory.
Fuck it, I'm not doing a joke. The artists couldn't even be bothered to do a gun animation. Were they operating on a budget of $5? Were the actors they hired charging by the minute? Speaking of which, I haven't mentioned this before, but whenever you get a valuable item like the Rubaiyat, Penny will tell you to check it in with the purser. Just do it if you don't want to fuck up the endgame. And speaking of the endgame, we're just about done. If you go to the smokestack on the boat deck where Willie hid the notebook, a seaman will tell you that the only way inside is via the engine room. Head back there and the same seaman you talked to when you were getting the Rubaiyat wants you to fix the engine again. Why does everyone on this ship want me to do their job for them? No wonder the Titanic sank if they were all this lazy. I bash on the panels a few times and the seaman lets me into the engine room. Hell yeah, we're finally done! Oh, not you again. Vlad finally figured out I was the one making him look stupid, and he's pissed. He's gonna make me pay. Now, 2 souls are fiercely entangled. Welcome back to the stage of history. And welcome to the second worst minigame in Titanic. Like with a fencing minigame, there's no strategy or skill required, or even possible. You just click on Vlad's stupid face over and over again. Well, you can also kick him in the balls repeatedly until his kids are born slow. But, and I know I sound like a broken record here, the tension of the scene is deflated by the fact that the outcome doesn't matter. If you lose, Vlad knocks you out for a few minutes and then you just keep playing like normal. If you win, you get to see Vlad's stupid face taking a nap on the floor. I realize the low difficulty of this game was probably due to the fact that the developers anticipated that a lot of non-gamers would buy it and they didn't want said non-gamers to become too frustrated, but when you take all the challenge out by having no consequences for failure, it becomes boring, tedious busy work. Sid Meier once said that a game is a series of interesting decisions. As much as I love the writing in Titanic, the actual game strips the player of the ability to make decisions at crucial junctions, and it takes all the fun out of it. You could literally remove this minigame from Titanic and it wouldn't affect anything. I will say this. I deliberately replayed this minigame 3 times after getting my ass beaten by Vlad twice, and I did eventually stumble on something approaching a strategy. Just hit him with left and right hooks, over and over. Not only are these the only attacks that do a significant amount of damage, you can easily stunlock Vlad and keep him from hitting back. Yeah, kick him in the quad! Sorry, my father was Krogan. Also, why is Vlad fist fighting me when he has a gun? Fucking internal logic. How does that work? I go into the smokestack and am confronted with the only element of randomness in the game. The smokestack is a maze with certain ladders strategically blocked off with barrels, and the game randomly chooses from one of 4 mazes every time you play. Except you'll likely end up getting to the top on your first try, by sheer accident. Oh hey, there's the notebook! Mission complete! Oh shit. Zidel finally put 2 and 2 together, and he's pissed. He confirms that the notebook contains names of Russian revolutionaries that Germany has been secretly funding. They're called Bolsheviks.
They are called communists.
That's what I said. And what would happen if the Russian secret police got a hold of the names in this notebook?
Dave would kill them. Secretly, of course, but kill them just the same.
I mean, the only good communist is a dead... Well, you know how it ends. Hey, wait a minute. Do you have the time, Zidel? It's getting kinda late. No reason, just a feeling I have. Oh. Right. Oh, you want the notebook? Here's a pen so you can write in it.
What?
God, I love that animation. Carlson doesn't even point the pen at Zidel. He hands it to Zidel and he sets it off himself. When Germany sends us their ridiculously evil-looking spies, they're not sending their best. Anyway, I should probably get down from here now that the ship is gonna sink. I head down the smokestack, all the obstructions mysteriously cleared, and... See, this is why you always stuff the bad guys in a locker after knocking them out. Let's re-roll. Instead of using the pen on Zidel, I'll just wimp out and give him the notebook.
Thank you. These names won't be disembarking in New York. Neither, I am afraid, are you.
Yep, that's right. You cannot leave the smokestack with the notebook. If you give it to Zidel, he shoots you. If you knock him out, Vlad cracks your skull open. Neither of these are fatal, which makes no sense in Zidel's case, since every other time you get shot, it's an instant game over. Welcome to the final act of the game. I'm in my cabin, somehow, and once again, I get a knock on the door. It's Penny.
'Twas a poor shot, that.
You're telling me. Zidel somehow screwed up shooting me at point-blank range. Penny tells me that the Titanic is sinking, but my mission is still ongoing. She gives me back all the mission-critical items I stashed with the purser and tells me I need to find any ones I don't have and then get off the ship. This is the part of the game where if you were lazy, inept, or just couldn't be bothered to actually do your job, you can really screw yourself over. If you got the Rubaiyat, the painting, and George's real necklace, yes, that's now suddenly a mission-critical item, you're on easy street. Otherwise, you're gonna have to track all that shit down. And remember what I mentioned about time progression? Yeah, that's out the window now. From this point on, the game moves forward in real time, and you have about 1 real-life hour to complete your mission and get into a lifeboat before the Titanic sinks. Regardless of what you did in the previous part, you're gonna have to get the notebook back. If you gave it to Zidel, Penny tells you to check out his cabin, C-59. Oh wow, it's unlocked. Oh man. Zidel puts the notebook on his bed and then tells you he's rigged a bomb. You're bombing a ship that's already sinking? Are you gonna tug on that pedo stash and disappear in a puff of smoke next? He then locks me in, and the only way out is to get his spare key by disarming the bomb. Hey, wait a minute, don't doors typically lock from the inside? Why do I need a key? Welcome to the last puzzle in Titanic, and the one the developers clearly thought was the hardest, because they literally allow you to give up. But I'm a gamer, and I shall overcome. Let's see, do I cut the blue wire or the orange wire? Whoops. You solve this brain teaser by turning a couple of knobs, waiting for the timer to run out, then turning another knob and taking the key. Don't forget the goddamn notebook on your way out. If you have the Rubaiyat painting and necklace at this point, you're basically done, and you just need to find a way off the ship. If you're missing one item or more, well, it's side quest time. If you don't have the painting, Jack Hacker has it. You'll find him and Shayla in the second-class stairs, where they'll tell you that Conkling's wife stole her baby and they'll give you the painting if you get the baby back. Go up to the top of the stairs and you'll find the Conklings. Tell Mrs. Conkling you have the letter Shayla stole and she'll immediately fork the baby over because she's a cruel, conceited bitch. Give the baby to the Hackers and you get the painting. Oh yeah, this happens to Andrew Conkling. If you don't have the Rubaiyat or the necklace, Vlad has them. You'll also have the notebook if you opted to get crowbarred rather than shot in the previous act. Vlad is chilling in the engine room. Turns out he sent Sasha to that great Pleshkevitsa stand in the sky, and he's going to use the necklace and Rubaiyat to fund his dream of the glorious Serbian People's Republic.
We will start a fire. A fire that will destroy the Austrian oppressors, destroy Europe, and all Serbs will know freedom.
He then remembers he's on a sinking ship and begs you to help him find a way off. If you go to the first-class lounge, you'll run into Clara Slimehouse, who starts raving about how she's not getting on a lifeboat because she's not leaving Willie. Lady, you were dating him for like a week. Was the D really that good? Before she goes, she gives you her shawl for some reason. Give the shawl to Vlad and he'll fork over whatever you want. However, you can only trade the shawl for one item, the Rubaiyat, the notebook, or the necklace. If Vlad has more than one item, you won't be able to get the best ending to the game. Like with many other plots in this game, Vlad's cross-dressing escape is based on something that actually happened. A number of men attempted to flee the Titanic by disguising themselves as women to get around the women and children first rule. Speaking of the necklace, how's Georgia doing? Meet up with Zytel in the lounge and find out about his latest devious plot, poisoning Georgia. He's gambling that I'm a total simp and offers me the antidote if I hand over the painting. His gamble pays off because I give him the painting so Georgia will let me touch her poop deck again. Now I need to get the painting back. Remember Buick Riviera, the cheating French blackjack player? He's relevant now. I go to the smoking room and discover that Riviera is offering a pass to get onto a lifeboat. To get the pass, I need to beat him at blackjack and wager something equally valuable, the Rubaiyat or the necklace. Here's something to keep in mind. You don't actually have to leave the Titanic with either item. You just have to make sure Vlad doesn't get them. If you lose them to Riviera and they go down with the ship, you can still get the best ending. Or you can just do what everyone else does and save scum until you win the first time. Take the pass and go back to Zytel. Like Vlad, he belatedly realized that he's on a literal sinking ship and is willing to do whatever it takes to see another day. Give him the boat pass and he'll give you the painting. Speaking of which, you're on the sinking ship. So how do you get off? The first method is to use Riviera's pass yourself, but that prevents you from getting the painting back from Zytel. The second is to run into the Gorse Joneses on the boat deck. They'll invite you into their lifeboat. However, you only get one chance at this, and if you say no, they leave without you. Also, if you don't encounter them early on, they'll have already left. The third method is to wait until the literal last moment, repeatedly asking Officer Morrow if you can help. Right when the ship is about to go under, he'll shove you on a lifeboat. Oh hey, Daisy.
Did you see the Astors, Benji Guggenheim?
You're still gossiping? Oh my god. I don't think she's gonna make it, folks. Once you're off the ship, you're treated to an inaccurate cinematic of the Titanic going down, and actually split in half, along with the finest character models of 1996. Time for the ending slides! If you manage to get the Rubaiyat and the necklace, the Black Hand is starved of funding and doesn't get the chance to assassinate Archduke Franz Ferdinand, preventing World War I. I mean, do you really need tons of cash to send a dude to shoot someone? Funny thing is that the real-life assassination of Franz Ferdinand was something of an own goal for Serbian nationalists. The Archduke was sympathetic to the Serbs, and had he become emperor, he planned to reconstitute Austria-Hungary as a federation called the United States of Greater Austria, giving each of the empire's ethnic minorities the same autonomy that Hungarians enjoyed. There's a statue of Gavrilo Princip in downtown Belgrade. I've seen it myself, so I'm guessing the lesson didn't take. I'll say it again. Fuck you, Gavrilo Princip. If you get the painting, the war plans end up being scrapped, but the painting itself becomes famous. And who painted it? This guy! and he goes on to have a fulfilling art career, finger-banging Catholic art hoes, instead of taking over Germany and doing all that other stuff. If you get the Notebook, it's turned over to the Russians. I'll let Carlson explain what happened.
And the names Stalin, Lenin, and Trotsky vanished from history. The communist revolution aborted.
After all, the only good communist is a Getting all 4 items results in a golden age for the people of the world, with no dastardly wars or revolutions to muck it all up. And Carlson gets to retire peacefully 30 years later, instead of dying in a roach-filled apartment. There's unfortunately no Fallout-style epilogue slides revealing what happened to all the characters you met on board the Titanic. We don't learn if Shayla's son ends up becoming a capo in the Winter Hill gang before getting popped by the FBI, or if Carlson married the newly widowed Georgia, only to divorce her after she cheated on him with Oswald Mosley. Tying up these plot threads in the final act has no rewards other than your personal satisfaction.
One can only imagine how different it could have been. Would have been, if we had failed.
Oh, we don't have to imagine, bud. Let's look at the bad endings. If you leave the ship with nothing, well, nothing changes. History unfolds exactly as it did in the real world, right down to Carlson dying in a German bombing. If you leave the ship with only the Rubaiyat necklace, the National Socialist German Workers' Party overthrows the Kaiser in 1927, 6 years before they took control of Germany in the real world. They use the added time and power combined with Germany's industrial might, unhindered by the Treaty of Versailles, to develop atomic bombs. Carlson dies when the Jerrys decide to fatboy London. If you leave with everything but the Notebook, or you leave with only the painting, the Soviet Union rises to power, and with no other obstacles in the way, embarks on a war to bring communism to all of Europe. Oh, you thought I was going to go this entire video about referencing the other alternate history game that came out in 1996? Well, you were wrong, bucko!
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!
If you leave with only the Notebook, or you leave with everything but the painting, the National Socialist German Workers' Party, Germany, defeats Tsarist Russia in 2 days and then conquers Britain.
They hung Churchill yesterday.
It's hanged, Carlson. They hanged him. And then there's my personal favorite ending because of how wackadoodle it is. If you leave without the Rubaiyat, the necklace, or both, the communists take over Germany after World War I and conquer Europe. I'm not doing the Hell March joke again. These endings are all very interesting, but they beg the question, how does one come up with plausible alternate history? Anyone can speculate about what might have happened had, say, the South won the Civil War, but you need something more in order to craft a believable narrative. You have to not only know history, you have to know how to think about history. But how does one think about history? Titanic's writers were very clearly influenced by the great man theory, or as the 19th century Scottish philosopher Thomas Carlyle put it, the history of the world is but the biography of great men. These great men, through their will and determination, left permanent marks on the world and changed the course of history. If you subscribe to the great man theory, you can easily see how, say, subtracting Lenin from the equation of Tsarist Russia means no Russian Revolution. Or let's take another example. For many years, there was an urban legend that George Washington's mother had been hit by lightning when she was pregnant with him, but both she and her unborn baby were unharmed. There's no historical evidence to suggest this story is true, but regardless, imagine how American history would have played out had Washington not been around. Would we have won our independence from the British if Washington hadn't been around to command the Continental Army? Would the fledgling U.S. have held together had he not been around to serve as its first president? Great man theory argues that it was the sheer will and talent of men like George Washington that made the revolution possible. After all, the right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. But this isn't the only way of looking at history. Historical materialism is a theory of history developed by Karl Marx. Marx posited that the prime mover in terms of social change is not great men, ideology, or even ethnic or religious conflict. It's material conditions, how well society is doing as a whole. Technological progress can cause social upheaval by shifting the balance of power between different classes. Marx's theory was heavily influenced by the philosopher Friedrich Hegel, specifically his concept of the Hegelian dialectic. The Hegelian dialectic theorizes that all aspects of a society, economics, politics, science, and so on, are deeply connected and must all be taken into consideration when analyzing historical change. At any moment, society is comprised of competing forces, some seeking change, or a thesis, which inspires a reaction, known as an antithesis.
The conflict between the two is resolved through a synthesis, a profound change that alters society. Let's apply this to Titanic's depiction of the Russian Revolution. Russia was in a sorry state in 1917. While it wasn't as backwards as many people believe, having industrialized considerably in the previous decades, it was poor, people were starving, and Russia was losing in World War I. It's easy to forget that there were actually two Russian revolutions. The February Revolution, in which the Tsar was overthrown and replaced with a provisional government, and the October Revolution, in which the provisional government was overthrown by the Bolsheviks. The Bolsheviks were far from the only faction interested in taking out the Tsar. There were the Mensheviks, the Cadets, the left socialist revolutionaries, and many others, some backed by foreign powers. There were also numerous ethno-nationalist uprisings in Ukraine, Finland, and elsewhere. The Bolsheviks seized control because they were the largest and most organized faction, but even if Lenin, Stalin, and Trotsky were removed from the picture, the historical materialist view states that a revolution of some kind would have occurred in Russia because the material conditions were ripe for it. The country was falling apart, the Tsar couldn't control dissent, something would have happened. Analyzing the merits of various historical theories is beyond both the scope of this video and my internet-poisoned brain. What do you think? Post it in the replies so I can engagement farm off of your wit and insight. Titanic Adventure Out of Time was released on November 20th, 1996. It was the most commercially successful game Cyberflix had released up to that point, selling over 100,000 copies in its first 2 months. It got a second win the following year when Titanic the movie was released, remaining popular enough that it was the 6th best-selling PC game in the US in 1998. Despite this, both its publisher and developer would fold during this time, with GTE Entertainment closing in 1997 and Cyberflix itself ending operations in 1998 after the release of the only game they made after Titanic, Red Jack: Revenge of the Brethren. But is Titanic Adventure Out of Time worth playing? Sure. Why not? Titanic is a college course in why point-and-click adventure games fell out of fashion. Somewhere along the line, Cyberflix forgot that they were making a game. Puzzles where you're given the solution immediately, mini-games you literally can't lose. It's a game so easy, even your boomer mom could beat it. Nobody cared for the incredibly deranged puzzle logic that adventure games were degrading to at this point, like having to use a pet rat to retrieve a wallet from underneath a couch, but Titanic went in the opposite direction, where it's basically impossible to lose if you can speak English at a 4th grade level. This lack of difficulty severely truncates the game's length. If you know what you're doing, you can beat it in about 4 hours, though that's probably better than artificially padding it out with filler segments. What carries this game is its story. Yeah, the characters all look like horrendous ayahuasca flashback puppets, but the acting is good for a game of its era, and the plot is intricate and rich, rewarding those who paid attention in history class, or spent too much time on the pre-normie internet reading forum posts by dudes named White Wolf the Nimby. Titanic is an example of how much more literate video games used to be. Who knew you could learn something about the real world from a game? I did, because I grew up in the 90s, you idiot zoomers. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I've got more on the way. Why not like, subscribe, or follow me on whatever platform you're watching this on? My next video will be on a game that I already referenced in this review. Want to guess what it is? Post it in the replies so I can ignore you until it's about ready to drop. Illegitimi non carborundum. Don't let the bastards grind you down. I'm Matt Forney, and this has been Society of Sensation, over and out. I'll see you again in July.